When I died, I was just 14 years old. My brother and I used to climb and play in the barren hills of eastern San Bernardino County, California, just north of Orange County. My brother and I were fiddling with an old bike one afternoon, attempting to figure out how to put the foot pedal brake back together. When we were kids, we used to rip things apart and figure out how they worked. My brother reassembled the rear bicycle hub and asked if I'd like to do a test ride down the steep slope on the road leading to our house. The bike was the work of a hill-roaming boy. It had a large knobby rear tire fitted in the front rim, and a smaller knobby rear tire mounted to the back rim. The previous handlebars were replaced with high-rise bars, salvaged from a broken banana seat bike popular in the mid-1960s. This would be our dirt bike for exploring the parched hills interwoven fire roads. I sat on the bike and pushed down the hill. I saw that the bike tracked straight and rolled smoothly as I increased my speed. I accelerated down the first steep dip and down a tight left-hand curve that led to a harder climb below. I put back pedal pressure to the foot brake just before entering the curve to slow down a little. The pedal pushed back with a sudden, abrupt upthrust, almost knocking me off the bike. There was no going back. I was determined to take the curve and gain speed by the second. I barely had time to lean into the fast turn and preserve my cool. As I leaned heavily into the turn and drove down the hill, the tire slapped gravel. I tested the brakes once more. This time, the pedal's powerful upward, rearward thrust nearly threw me off the bike. I wobbled back into balance and was now moving so rapidly that the wind blast tears were running past my eyes and into my ears. As the bike's speed increased, the rubber tires complained. I exhausted all my methods for stopping the bike, but I was out of options, and my speed was increasing to the point where I had never gone this fast on a bicycle before. I reasoned that if I used the rock wall ahead to stop the bike, the tires would act as a bumper. I know it seems ridiculous, but I was out of options and I made the incorrect decision. Maybe I'd seen too many cartoons, like some bizarre Wile E. Coyote scheme that was doomed from the start. I didn't hear the crash or feel any discomfort. The velocity I was going at when I hit the wall was incredible. The wall appeared in front of me in an instant. Everything went pitch black. I was completely surrounded in darkness, and I have no idea how long I was in this position. The irony is that the granite retaining wall I collided with was directly in front of the volunteer fire station. The irony is that the granite retaining wall I collided with was directly in front of the volunteer fire station. There was no one in sight to assist me. All of the volunteer firefighters were at their day jobs, tending to the gas station, producing widgets at the Chino plant, or cutting hair. I dimmed into light, realizing that I was hovering among the oak tree branches and leaves above me. Everything was peaceful, save for the wind rustling through the leaves, which I could hear and feel. It seemed very normal for me to be free of my body in this way. I didn't want to be crumpled among the ruins of my bike. I recall feeling sad for that poor little guy and his injuries. This felt like my true home in the universe, and I was eager to set forth, even if that meant never seeing my family again. Then I heard something over my head. "Angels!" I screamed with joy. To this day, anytime I hear a choir hitting just the right notes, I well up with tears, remembering that exquisite emotional moment of pure delight when I realized I had to be dead and the angels were coming for me. I was immediately plunged back into darkness, but this time, it was different. The darkness wasn't encompassing me like it had previously. I was in a tube and felt myself ascending. If I had looked up, I would have noticed that I was looking at the inside of the tunnel, and that there was light at the end. Then, as if in an elevator, I emerged to find myself standing in a field. A meadow so beautiful and infused with such a powerful life energy that even the grass blades sparkled with life within. It was warm and quiet, like though God was present. The warmth and comfort that emanated from his presence overpowered me. I've never felt such affection before or since. Then I heard that song again and turned to look for it. In the valley right below the rolling meadow, I noticed a massive crystalline structure towering above me. I yearned to join the inner chorus. The music and beauty were all-encompassing. The ecstatic sound of a million, maybe a trillion, radiant spirits singing in euphoric harmony filled the air. They sang songs of worship to the Lord. Never before have I felt so alone. I knew immediately that I wasn't going to be a part of their happiness and love. I sensed their closeness and shared a glimmer of their unconditional and all-encompassing love for one another. I was separated from them, and they had no idea I was there, standing before the crystal monolith with a broken heart, knowing I wasn't worthy. Then something materialized alongside me. I never looked at him, but I could tell he was a man. We communicated without using our words, but his voice sounded vividly in my thoughts. He was polite and forthright. "You have to return. This is not the place for you." I was so shocked by these comments that I yelled, "No! Please don't make me return. I want to be with you." These were the words of a youngster who was terrified of death, and despite his Catholic upbringing, feared the cemetery and what lay beyond. A powerful sucking sound responded, and I was literally dragged back into my crumpled body. The sudden and all-encompassing ache was excruciating. It hurt to be alive once more. Because of the hit with the wall, my head felt like it was bursting. My knuckles were broken, bleeding, and sore from the handlebars slamming into the rock retaining wall. And my death grip on the handlebars had to have taken a huge impact when they double punched into the granite retaining wall. I had to free myself from the wreckage of the bike and stumble back up the hill. I was on the verge of passing out and ready to puke. My heart had been broken much more than my body. I'd just been booted out of heaven, and I was embarrassed. I kept that secret hidden deep within me, knowing that my family would mock me for making up a narrative about dying and going to heaven. Near-death experiences had not yet gained popularity, and I had certainly never heard of one. So almost 3 decades after that awful tragedy, I held my secret guilt inside me until 1993. It wasn't until I read Dr. Melvin Morris's book, Closer to the Light, Learning from Childhood Near-Death Experiences, that I understood there were others who had my childhood experiences. I wasn't completely alone, and I wasn't that insane after all. My injuries have left me with various disadvantages over the years. I suffered horrible migraines that imitated strokes and caused me anguish for years. Unequal pupils from my head injury. I was never taken to the doctor after the collusion, and a deep sorrow for coming to heaven and being deemed lacking in character. I felt like a piece of human garbage, lost, alone, and deeply embarrassed. Until my injury, I was a happy boy. I enjoyed singing, teasing my siblings, and exploring interconnecting fire road trails in the hills above our house. I grew glum, solemn, and afraid. Most of all, having seen what pure joy and loving connections our soul are designed to have, I felt an awful loneliness. I felt stuck, and I still do, in a flesh and bone prison that imprisons and limits our souls. I believe that humans spend the majority of their lives striving to find real love and to connect with others in some way. I believe our souls know what is best. Heaven, the realm from whence we all came before arriving to earth, is always just a breath away. This is not for you. Those 5 words had a finality for me and led me to a life where I questioned God's unconditional love. It's not for you. Sure, I sinned and committed mistakes like any other boy, but I always imagined that one day I'd return to heaven. I never imagined I was so awful that heaven would throw me back into my body like something vile, spit like vomit from the stomach. Or maybe I was crazy and dreamt everything. Of course, I knew it was just as genuine as my wrecked bike. There was no getting away from the fact that I'd gone to a location I desired to return to again. Sometimes, fragments of recollections from the past would return, like playing a cosmic kindergarten. I recall being cheerful, singing, and feeling loved. Where is the love these days? Why do I feel more alone now that I've died and gone to heaven? I have to believe that throughout the years, I've somehow redeemed myself. I spent the majority of my life on ambulances and with the fire department. This is not a redemptive overture to heaven, but rather a genuine concern for individuals in need of immediate assistance. When I was hurt and killed, there was no one to help me, even though I was right outside the fire station. I never saw my body lying there, but I had a lot of sympathy for that poor little boy. But I'm not completely depressed about my childhood NDE. I know there is a love that is greater than all others, that Jesus is who he claims to be, and that he loves me. Since my injury, Jesus has appeared to me twice, both times when I needed him the most. He's caring and kind, with a good sense of humor. He speaks in a matter-of-fact tone and is actually rather pleasant. He knows me as well as my heart, so perhaps there is still hope for me. So, somewhere inside me, I hope that one day I'll be welcomed back into heaven, and those 5 horrible words will seem like a bad dream. You must never give up hope, else there is no reason to live.